If someone offered me my current paycheck forever and told me I'd never have to work another day, I'd probably take that deal in about 3 seconds. Actually, no, I wouldn't even need to think about it that long. So this isn't going to be one of those videos where I'm going to tell you work is amazing and retirement is overrated. It's not. But after spending most of 2025 off, semi-retired, and then going back to work at the beginning of this year, I learned some lessons I wasn't expecting. Sometimes going back to work isn't about needing the money. It's about being stuck in what I call the waiting room years. So my story, I was laid off at 57 years old. I was working for a company. It had been acquired by another company, and it went through an equity transition at the beginning of 2025. As part of that, my department, which was not really part of the company's main business, it was part of the prior company's business, was downsized. I was let go, laid off, given a severance package. And with that, I decided to take the year and kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I had enough runway between severance and unemployment to make that happen. I was trying to decide if it made sense to be retired or not. However, I had a bunch of caveats to that retirement. First, my wife was still working. We still needed health insurance. We needed it for quite a number of years. In the United States, health insurance can be really expensive. And it also worked out that my wife had started a new job a couple of years before and really liked it and was hitting her stride and wanted to keep doing it for a while longer. Additionally, our youngest child was still going into high school. So we still have a number of years with him home and deciding what we're going to do, what path we're going to take. If that wasn't enough, we also have our older kids living at home, our grown adult kids. We always said, hey, you're welcome to stay here as long as we're in this house. Otherwise, it's up to the new owners whether you can stay here or not. It's just an easy way to give them a lot of runway. It saves them thousands on rent and really doesn't cost us anything to provide that. We're staying in the house. If we downsize, we're leaving the area. So for right now, while we're here, we'll stay in this house that we've been in for 20 plus years at this point. We have a couple dogs. Actually, we have 2 dogs that are ours, and then our oldest son has a dog. So we have all this stuff going on that really kind of ties me to the house, even if I'm not working. So I spent the year kind of exploring what the options were, but at the same time, I was looking at other opportunities. I wasn't out there applying for hundreds of jobs because frankly, there aren't hundreds of jobs that people are qualified for, right? If you hit the initial list when you first start your job search, usually there's a handful of jobs every week that you're truly qualified for and you should invest in and make that happen. So I was doing that. So I had 2 choices. I could either stay retired or go back to work. And that was the big decision. And what I found was it wasn't as easy a decision as I always thought it would be. I always thought as soon as I stopped working, that would be that. But there were other assumptions in there, such as not having minor children, such as not having my wife still work, such as being able to relocate, that just weren't playing out. Now, the time off was great. Not working was great. That retirement trial period was awesome. The freedom was real. I could do whatever I wanted, pretty much whenever I wanted, within reason. I wasn't beholden to a meeting schedule. I wasn't beholden to a manager, salespeople that I was supporting. None of that was an issue. I could sleep in a little later in the morning, though strangely enough, I didn't. I could go out midday. I could run errands if I wanted to go to the grocery store for something that I was going to make that night, or maybe pick up something for the kids. I just get in the car and go do it. I could go for long walks, enjoy the nice weather, spring weather, summer weather, fall, winter. Winter weather, yeah, probably not so much. So it was great. The freedom part of it, that I understand. I understand why retirement is addictive. The freedom part of it is amazing. And I don't underestimate that. But I wasn't able to fully enjoy it. And I wasn't able to fill the whole day with that freedom. At least not in the way I wanted to. So after the initial months of the euphoria and not having to work, I suddenly found myself envying people that had purpose, had work. There were things I could do, but again, I was limited as to the scope of them. The things I truly wanted to do, such as traveling, living elsewhere, living in an environment where there's a lot more to do every day, wasn't going to happen just yet because of the constraints I talked about. So the problem was, it was unfinished retirement. I was in those waiting room years. I was trying to figure out what the next steps were. I was on that bridge between working full time and being retired. So I had freedom, but I just didn't have a destination, didn't have a purpose. I was not retired, not working, but just waiting, sitting there, holding off, waiting on everyone else to get to the point they needed to be at so that I could truly have retirement. And I always thought retirement was going to be as a couple, right? Me and my spouse, we'd both retire. So I was holding for that too. So work turned out to be better than doing nothing. I decided I was tired of doing nothing. I had relaxed, kind of recovered, emerged from some burnout after years and years of working, taken care of some things around the house that needed to get done. But I really needed a purpose to fill those hours. And I was struggling because I didn't want to give up the freedom. I didn't want to go back to the stress of what I used to do, but I still wanted that purpose. So I continued that job search I was talking about, and I focused on the part of my job I love doing. And I focused on jobs I could do from home. So that way I don't have to commute. I don't have that stress. It still gives me a lot of freedom. If I want to go work somewhere else, I'll go work somewhere else. Not in terms of company, but in terms of location. If I want to go down to Florida for a week and spend it with my parents and work, I can do that. If I want to go somewhere where there's more activity to do and work during the day and do that at night, it gives me the option to do that too. So I missed having the goals. I missed working with other people. And I missed having the successes that come with work. I missed learning new things. And frankly, I'll be quite honest, I missed the paycheck. Even though we're in a good spot for retirement, and we could certainly weather me not working for a while until my wife retires and until we hit 59 and a half so we can have normal access to the retirement funds without taking extraordinary means. And I love the security that if the stock market goes down, that I still have a paycheck. Additionally, we had a number of projects we wanted to do. Upgrades to our house that we've been in 20 plus years, remodels of various rooms that we wanted to do, the backyard. And I don't know I'd spend retirement money on that. I don't know it's worth taking funds out of retirement. However, while I'm working, it's certainly a good use of funds because it makes the house more enjoyable for us short term, and long term, it makes it easier to sell the house once we decide we're going to move somewhere else. So it gives us options. Also, it enables us to take upgraded travel. We talked about traveling a lot in retirement, but the retirement budget will be different from the budget that we have now while we're working. And that's just because we're watching the money closer. We're watching the retirement fund. It'll be dependent on the stock market and everything else going on at that point in time that we're taking the trip. But right now, taking trips with the paychecks coming in, we can take nicer trips. We can have upgraded accommodations, get that better cabin on the cruise ship, have that better experience, take those additional excursions, go on those other trips that we were going to do. So my goal isn't to throw my body at work. My goal is to do a great job and be able to get that paycheck to support the life that I want to lead right now, to use all the vacation time that my wife and I have on these kinds of trips. And since I'm working out of the house, vacation time for small things really isn't that critical. Like I said, if I want to go work somewhere else, if I want to see relatives and work during the day and see them at night, all those things are options when you have a fully remote job. So that was the goal, is getting that fully remote job and making that happen. So the financial relief that going back to work brings is absolutely real. But the trade-off is you're giving up some freedom. Now, do I think I'll regret that at some point? No, actually not, because we're going to use the money to do things that we want to do. The upgrades on the trips, the upgrades on the house, all those things that we want to get done before we enter real retirement. And along the way, we're going to have a great time. We're going to have fun. We're going to take advantage of it. And we'll continue to watch our funds grow. Now, our goal isn't to die with the most money in the bank. Our goal is to spend the money in retirement. But for right now, like I said, we have these additional expenses that I don't know I'd use retirement money on. But being back at work certainly gives me options. So I don't want to romanticize work or the nostalgia of the old days of working. It's still a grind. I've still got meetings. I've still got schedules to keep. I've still got to be successful. I still got to do a great job. I want to go out on my terms, not because I wasn't engaged or I wasn't doing a great job. It would be a personal failure if I got fired. Now, if there's a business downturn and the company lets me go, that's fine. That's a totally different case. But if they don't think I'm doing a great job, that's personal. That means I wasn't putting my effort into it and I got what I deserve. So I want to do really good at it and I want to be engaged. But there's trade-offs, right? You lose that freedom. You lose that spontaneity. You lose the ability to do whatever you want. Now, I can still get out on midday walks, but I have to time limit them, right? I have to box them in during like lunch, maybe take half an hour and do a quick walk, or maybe before or after work. But it can't just be a random time of the day or based on the weather that day. So I still got to keep schedules and all the crazy stuff that goes with work. Is this a bad thing? Not necessarily. It keeps my mind engaged. It keeps my body engaged. It keeps me going. And it keeps me from really just kind of sitting here alone, overthinking things, getting depressed. So it's an interesting conundrum, these waiting years, when you're ready to retire, but you can't just make it happen right now. So in the past, I worked because I had to, right? Everyone has to, especially when you're starting out. You got bills to pay, you got car payments, you got insurance, you got mortgages, you got food, you got going out. All these things that are happening that for years and years and years, as you're building up your retirement fund, you have to go to work. You have the pressure. You can't lose that job or you'll be financially ruined. Many Americans are just a couple of paychecks away from bankruptcy, right? And that's kind of how we all live our lives when we're younger. As we get older and accumulate savings, accumulate wealth, that changes. And finally, when you get to the point of being able to retire, even if you can't yet, you're not dependent on that. You can then make decisions based on what you want to do, what job you want to take, the level of commitment you want to put into it, how much you want to throw your body at it, right? A lot of people give up their health for their job. And at this point and at this age, health is everything, right? That's the time and health are the critical commodities. Money, there's options for. You can go back to work, you can take a part-time job, but maximizing the amount of healthy weeks and years you have left is important. So that becomes another factor in the equation. So I still want to perform. I still want to do well. I still want to enjoy life. I still want to take vacations. This going back to work doesn't preclude that. It doesn't preclude having fun. In fact, work's more enjoyable when you're there by choice instead of by necessity. When you're not panicking every time a company lays someone off or there's a downturn in the market. When you can just sit back, enjoy it, and do your best and be a contributor for yourself and for the company as a whole. After spending most of 2025 off and then going back to work at the beginning of 2026, I've come to a surprising conclusion. Retirement and work aren't opposites. They're tools. Just like money. Money is a tool. And different seasons of life require different tools. So you can kind of use the tools how you want, right? Like I said, we're going to go ahead and travel. We're going to go ahead and have fun. We're going to use this money to do things around the house we've wanted to do to make the house more enjoyable these next several years while we're still here before we relocate. So it's a tool. Work's a tool. The money from work is a tool. And retirement is kind of a tool too. It's a tool for freedom. But you can kind of mix them all together. They're not mutually exclusive. If we retired tomorrow, that's fine. If my wife said, you know what, I'm done, let's make this happen, that's okay. If we wanted to move somewhere else and take our teenager with us, that's an option too. We could go move close to a retirement community and live the lifestyle while still having our son in school. There's ways to make that happen. So we're ready for the next chapter. We're sitting there. We're having fun. We're in the waiting room. Think of it as we're going to go out on stage. We're in the green room. We're sitting back. We're having some drinks. We're having some snacks. We're having a good time before we go out there. One doesn't preclude the other. They kind of feed into each other. It's a next step. And it gives us time to get serious and get ready and firm up our plans for retirement. Would I rather stay home and not work? Absolutely. But I'd also rather have that paycheck. And I'd like to do the upgrades around the house. And I'd also like to do the upgraded travel. So given where I'm at, the circumstances in my particular case, this makes a lot of sense to do what we're doing when we're doing it. We don't feel like we're pushing off retirement. We feel like we're waiting for retirement to come to us, waiting for the planets to align for that to happen. So in your journey, think about where you're at, when you could retire, if you'll retire. What's keeping you from retiring? Is it actual real constraints or is it fear? Let me know your thoughts on where you're at in retirement in the comments below. Also, if you enjoy this content and you're researching retirement and you're trying to figure out the right angles, please like and subscribe. The whole point of this channel is to give other viewpoints on retirement to feed into the conversation. Thank you, and thank you for your time.